Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening back to the audio podcast, you're listening to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream, where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. To timestamp this, it's just gone 11 a.m. on Friday, September the 22nd. We have circa around about 26 hours and 25 minutes until the game week 6 FPL deadline. And for transparency, let me start by saying that I made a -4 earlier in the week. Gone are Gabriel Martinelli and João Pedro. In are Julian Alvarez. And I've punted Jeremy Doku for a couple of weeks. Only for Jack Grealish to return in training on Wednesday, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. I think Doku should be fine for tomorrow. That's what I've decided to do. Bit of a benching headache this week. I'm probably going to bench James Maddison, which I don't advise anybody else to do. But if Madders is on my bench and does really well, I'll still be pretty happy. So I'm just going to give Ollie Watkins just the nod over him. Also likely to bench Ben Chilwell, but that's subject to Mauricio Pochettino's press conference a little later today. Right, let's get into the questions. Matty H says, "Hey up, mate. Sky question, with Dunk seemingly injured, is Bayer the answer? Currently going no Burnley Luton coverage, Tar." Well, Roberto De Zerbi told TNT Sport last night that Dunk and Ferguson would play on Sunday. So, if that's the case, there's nothing to answer to, is there, mate? I'm a Lewis Dunk owner. I think if there was a sell point, it was last week. So, whatever the injury is, it can't be serious. De Zerbi's he's not like one of these who likes to fib and tell porkies and stuff. He's generally quite open and honest. So, if he says Dunk will play on Sunday, I think Dunk will play on Sunday, mate. So, probably nothing to think about from that perspective, mate. Jovan Canija says, "Hi, James. Sell Maddison or not?" No, that's a keep, isn't it? Again, this kind of comes back to what I discussed last week about considering outcome bias, and know that you'd get to this week and Tottenham would be looking at Arsenal away and Liverpool at home at their next two, and what you're going to do. So if you went in earlier for Maddison and went game weeks 3, 4, 5, fine. If you come in any later, it's nothing to... I don't think it's anything to consider. You're not going to want Maddison back for sort of 8, 9, 10, for example. So that's a keep. Just because I'm saying that I'm probably going to bench him this week, he's not necessarily, again, what I'd advise anybody else to do. So that's a keep, mate. Madders is fine. He'll be at the heart of a lot of the good things that Tottenham do. Roseanne Fleur says, "Seen Botman unexpected price rise. Is it a conspiracy or are they taking a piss?" I think this is one for Alon and Walsh from FML FPL, isn't it? Who nailed it on the head years ago when they said it's absolutely bizarre, isn't it, that there's no transparency over transfers and you're complicating the game, even for those that are engaged in it like us. So, I don't know. It's probably a combination of number of transfers out on wildcards earlier and now number of transfers in on wildcards now. Might be a combination. I have no idea. Is it a conspiracy? No. I wouldn't have thought so. But I do think it's bizarre that one of the things I regularly get asked is, "Oh, what would you do to improve the game? Like, would you change the chips and all these sort of things?" And I kind of say, look, the game's fine. It's simple for most people. And you don't want to overcomplicate it for the masses. And yet, understanding price rises and price falls, no one knows the exact science, right? It's silly. It's silly, really, when you think about it. There's no transparency on price changes and even what's likelihood. Even if there was if he gets 100,000 price transfers in, he's going to go up in price, or 65,000 net, or whatever it is. But we rely on the likes of statistics and Fix and other price prediction sites to kind of give us a little bit of accuracy, because actually even most of us really engaged haven't really got a clue. And I do think that they should probably look at that, because it just doesn't fit into the ethos of the rest of their game. There's no transparency on transfers. Everything else is pretty transparent and quite simple to understand, but the algorithms for transfers is murder. And of course it's murder because the sites last night sound like they were predicting, I don't know exactly, but it sounds like they were predicting about 80% on a rise. And if a player's at only about 80%, there's zero expectation he's going to rise. Colin Johnson says, "Morning James, great content, mate. 2 threes, plus would you do a -4 Watkins to Alvarez, Chilwell to Botman, Sterling to Mbumo, or just do 2 threes and leave in Sterling?" Yeah, I think 2 threes and just leave it at Sterling would be my take. Home fixture for Chelsea against Villa. There's decent couple more to come. Is Mbumo worth the -4? debatable. If it had been 3-3s, I'd probably say, yeah, crack on. But no, I'd just leave Sterling in for the minute, I think, Colin. Rennie Fern says, what's going on with FPL price changes? Why are they not open to how they do the change on the FPL website? Annoying, man. Thank you for your question, Rennie, but I kind of just covered it, so I'm going to skip that. Bloomer Caldera says, I want to bring in Ward-Prowse to replace Martinelli. Is it good idea now that Prowse has risen to 6.3? That's not right, is it? I feel the need to absolutely check that. I don't think James Ward-Prowse is 6.3. My take is, look, it's Liverpool away this week. I think what's interesting about him, I had a conversation with a few of our patrons yesterday on a Zoom call about comparing the 6.2 Ward-Prowse. Comparing Ward-Prowse and Jared Bowen. And one of the things that obviously is really striking about the two is Ward-Prowse's consistency, obviously, right? Almost like the fixtures don't matter. So I can sit and say, well, it's Liverpool away, it's not the right time to buy. True. Because you don't expect a haul, right? But if West Ham scored, you wouldn't be surprised if he assisted it, for example. And if I offered you that now, you go, oh, I'll take that. Yeah, 5 points away Liverpool. Yeah, cool. What's really interesting is when West Ham come into a really good set of fixtures between game week 10, I feel like those fixtures don't make Ward-Prowse more appealing. They make Bowen more appealing. Because I can't see that Bowen would go over those sort of like 4 or 5 games and not return. Whereas Ward-Prowse probably will return over that period, but like a 5-2, 5-2, kind of like that. Whereas Bowen's got the haul potential in him. So you could make a case to debate if you're looking at West Ham players, and I realise there's a good price difference between the two, that Ward-Prowse now is okay. Once you get to 10, you'd probably more want to target Bowen, or maybe even by that point it might even be Mohamed Kudus, right? So Ward-Prowse is not particularly on radar for me right now, to be totally honest. I could have bought him this week as part of the move I've made, and I've not, and he was never on the shortlist to go in for me, to be totally honest. Bad Company says, good morning, James. On wildcard, what combo do you prefer, Edouard and Rashford or Diaby and Højlund? Thanks. I prefer the one that's got the Aston Villa asset and get that ready and set for game week 8ish if you're wildcarding now. So by default I'd say Diaby and Højlund, but that would only be if you're going with a front three that's got Alvarez and Haaland with it as well, would be my take right now. So if that's the way you're going, fine, Diaby and Højlund. I'm going to guess the fact that Edouard was probably a kind of an 8th attacker. Maybe you might be looking at that in any case. So yeah, I prefer the Diaby route, to be totally honest. That the cautious on Manchester United is like, I've got them top of my fixture ticket for the next 7. It's a great run of fixtures, honestly. And I'm certainly not keen of selling ahead of Burnley away. I know that. Damian Rozalski says, you have benched 17 points and 14 points in game week 3 and 5. Does it hurt? Anything you would have done to change that? No, because I got, what did I get on bench boost in game week 1? Was it 19 or 21? I can't remember. So I got more than that. So it's fine. There's going to be more of that this year, isn't there? That game week 3, I could look back in hindsight and go, I should have played Gusto. Cool, but based on what I saw in the first 2 games, I didn't think he was going to play as advanced as he did. And he's not been that advanced since, right? So that's it. Listen, if you can be happy with your decisions going into game week, I think a lot of us are going to suffer more big bench scores this week. Like I'm going to have Madison and Udogie probably on my bench this week. I hope my bench score is about 40, mate. Anish Patil says, who is the better option for a punt before bringing in Diaby in game week 8? Foden or Doku? Do you think it's worth going for a differential Foden/Doku, as I can't bring in Alvarez, or just go to Diaby directly? Well, it's worth saying, look, I've gone Doku, but I couldn't have afforded Foden. And I probably would have been more inclined to pump Foden under that circumstance, to be totally honest. So Foden for me, mate. Lewis Stapleton says, with League Cup fixtures in midweek, will it become clear as to which teams will definitely have a fixture in game week 26? No, mate. No. Depends how many Premier League teams go out, right? But, I mean, we certainly don't need to be thinking about that now. It will become clear by December, a few, and then there'll be, I guess, a maximum kind of 4 fixtures, maybe 5, depending on if Man City is still in the competition, up for debate. But just don't need to be thinking about that now, mate. Anish Patil says, great content as always, James. Thank you. FPL team Peter, hello my friend, says, morning buddy, hope you're well. Only one real dilemma for me this week, play Diaby or Evan Ferguson. I have Chilwell and Gusto in defence, which makes me not really want to play Diaby. I think, my friend Pete, I think you've answered your own question there, mate. Yeah, And again, as said at the top, De Zerbi said that Ferguson will play on Sunday. Quite how he knows. We think Ferguson left the stadium last night because he was unwell. Quite how De Zerbi knows that it'll be over his illness by Sunday, I don't know. But he said he'll play. Trust him. Have it Alcantara says, triple captain Haaland versus Nottingham Forest. Are you doing it, bro? Haaland scored a hat-trick last year versus Nottingham Forest. Yep, and Nottingham Forest are much better defensively than they were going into, I want to say that was game week 5 last year. And it was a first half hat-trick, wasn't it? So, no, the plan for me will be triple captain Haaland, probably game week 20. As long as the Brentford fixture goes in there, which it may well do, and that would be a double with Sheffield United at home and Brentford at home. So, yeah, if that's the case, that's where I'll be using the chip. 0-0 consideration of using it right now on Erling Haaland. Dan says, hi James, if you was on wildcard today, any specific players you would target? Like many, be Newcastle defence would certainly go in. Areola would be a definite, and it'd be a case of working out goalkeeper. I'd maybe consider even pairing him with Kaminsky, actually. Certainly if I was going to bench boost in 7, that's what I'd do. But I'd arguably just go Areola and Turner and just fine. We'll take Areola this week at Liverpool and then he's fine to go on from there. I think Botman for me rather than Trips. Not that Trips isn't of course a better asset, but it is a good sort of 1.9 difference now. And it's what you can do with that 1.9. If I was wildcarding now, I'd arguably get Mo in place. I think I would still want something Manchester United offensive. I'd probably be punting something for 2 weeks to come back to Tottenham, I think. Though with Udogie, I'd have him in. Either him or Porro. I'd probably go Porro personally, but subject to what's available. That'd get tighter having Salah and Haaland in together. Alvarez would go in. I think Diaby would go in ready for 8. Maybe Matty Cash would go in as well. Stupinan I would probably keep, I think. I'd be quite tempted by Jordan Bayer. And the reason I say that's he's my probably most likely signing next week, to be totally honest. And the reason I say that is not because of the double next week. It's actually way better cover once we get into the kind of later October, November, December period where Burnley's fixtures get better. We have got a few where, like take for example, say if I've still got Udogie, he goes to Man City, and like Burnley got Sheffield United at home. I've looked at that kind of combination, and Bayer would work much better for me longer term as someone who's not intending to use the wild card over this period. So he'd probably go in. Matoma would probably go, I think. Saka I would want to keep. So again, it gets difficult. You go in like Saka, let's say Rashford, Haaland, Salah. Stripping it out defensively, aren't you? So that's why sort of things like Areola, Turner, I think, Botman, Bayer, Cash, Udogie, probably a Stupinan. Salah, Rashford, Saka, Diaby, Alvarez, Haaland, and then it's probably it's a flip choice between whether it's 5th midfielder or 3rd forward and 4.5. I haven't given that enough thought to tell you which way round I'd do that. Probably be a Cameron Archer, I should imagine. Nikolai Utme says, morning James, hope you're doing well mate, plan on wildcard game week 8, worth -4 this week, sort some issues and get Alvarez. Yeah, it's dependent on what you're selling. I think like selling Jackson to Alvarez is not as straightforward or as easy as it looks, right? Villa obviously back off defeat in Europe last night where they conceded 3 in Poland. I realised the team was quite rotated, but there are alarm bells I think defensively without Tyrone Mings. So could Jackson do well on Sunday? Yes, possibly. Yeah, Jackson to Alvarez for 3. Yeah, I think it'd probably be all over that. For -4, it's debatable, I think. I mean, it's debatable. So, it very much depends what you're selling, to be totally honest. Laxman says, should I keep Martinelli or Saliba as my first sub on bench? Well, I don't know what you're playing instead, mate, so I don't know how I'm meant to answer that. Christian Perforce says, 5 points gap already between Ipswich Town in 3rd and 4th place Norwich. Can't say I knew that, to be totally honest. Nicola says, non-football question. When you have a shower, assuming... No, I never shower, mate, like ever. Well, yeah, obviously. Do you face the water or have your back to it? I've had this one before loads of times. I'm a facer. Yeah, I'm a facer. Particularly if it's like first thing in the morning as well. Wake me up. So, yeah, I'm a facer. Matt Bagg says, hello. What's your thoughts on these options, please? Chilwell to Trippier. Akanji to Botman. Or Akanji to Trippier and Watkins to Alvarez, -4. Can't afford Akanji to Trippier. Thanks. So I certainly understand why you want to go Alvarez. I would want to be holding on to Watkins at the moment. I could have gone Watkins to Alvarez for free this week. I decided to hold Watkins at the moment. So I think for me, I wasn't comfortable getting rid of him. That was absolutely the easy out to get Alvarez for me was Watkins. So if I was you, if you really want to get rid of Watkins, I'd be just looking Watkins to Alvarez for free or the Kanchi to Botman for free, I think. Again, Chilwell to Trippier on the face of it. Great move, but consider the money might be really useful for you further down the line. Andre Traore says, come in my team, Colton Morris. Well, hopefully he explodes for you, mate. But Kaya Sequoid says, Anana is poo. 15 goals conceded. Thank you for your statement. That adds much to the stream. Dermot Whelan says, start Chilwell or Saliba this week, or possibly Kabore. So I'm going to start Saliba over Chilwell as it stands, but that is subject to whatever comes out of Maurizio Pochettino's mouth in the press conference. If the press conference finishes and I think Chilwell starts, then I go Chilwell. And under that circumstance, I'll probably therefore then start Maddison over Watkins as well if I end up doing that. So at the moment for me it's Saliba. I'd be in no rush to put Kabore in the team for any fixture, to be totally. Next week of course is different with a double, but I'd be in no real rush to do that. Heather says, morning James, great content, thank you. Which defender out of all the teams do you think is the best to have now until around game week 19-20? No wild card before them. Still my boys, mate. Yeah, get the offensive guys. Pedro Porro, mate. Pedro Porro. Ruben Diaz, maybe. But it's expensive in comparison to others. Trips will be good, right? Gabriel, maybe even ironically. Good call. He's someone I'd consider in that group on wildcard. I think he's back in now and it'll be alright, for example. It's cheaper than Saliba. So I would arguably flip that. Put sort of 0.3 in the bank, for example. Swazil says, is it Eze time or Doku time to transfer in? I've gone Doku, mate. So I can only answer it that way. My concern with Ebe Eze is a great player. I just think while Elise's out, there's a real big focus from opposition teams in terms of stopping it. It's like Thomas Frank spoke brilliantly on Monday in terms of like, oh, how do you sit up against Man City? Like, do you man mark players? He's like, they've got too many good players. You can man mark them. You do stuff positionally. And you wouldn't man mark necessarily Eze either, but you'd be very quick to get to, right, Eze's not get to him. Whereas with City, like, there's so many different, and it's sorry to compare City and Palace, but I think you get the point I'm saying. He's missing his mates at the moment. He's missing Zaha, who's obviously gone. He's missing Elise, who's injured as well. So, not that he can't go off. You know, we saw him return well against Wolves a few weeks ago, but I'd probably be tempted to punt Doku. If you wanted Eze really long term, you know, if there's a long term decision, then sure, Eze. Nisha Hortop says, is Mo Salah priority transfer for your team? No, it's not. Like many, looking at game week 9 in terms of potentially getting him in, but it might be that I don't go there at all. It's quite possible that might be how it ends up being for me. So building towards it, and I got a real consciousness of it, and the intention, yes, would be to get him in, but priority right now, no. Max says, bench Watkins, Mitoma or Sterling. Very reluctantly, arguably Watkins, I think. Callum Odumbele says, Cursor the most transferred in player means Julian Alvarez be benched versus Nottingham Forest. City play Newcastle midweek. Yeah, listen, Manchester City don't really care about playing Newcastle midweek, I don't think, mate. Be more interested about playing Wolves next weekend. So I think City may take the view on the Carabao Cup because of their Club World Cup involvement that they're just better off out of it this year. So I don't think you'll play at Newcastle, to be honest. 4-day break from Red Star. Listen, we know the high most transferred in players been blanking, but what's that over the last couple of weeks? I haven't bought any of them. The most transferred in player in all the weeks so far I haven't bought yet. I bought this one, so maybe the curse will change. Lee Sherwood says 2 free transfers. I have Mitoma, Henry, Estupinan and Chilwell. I need to move Henry. Would you consider moving any of the others? I have real concerns. Benching is coming, especially Mitoma, who played 2 full games. Yeah, it wouldn't come as a huge shock if Mitoma was benched. I think he'll probably start. Again, because next midweek it's not going to be important for Brighton, I think, in the Carabao away to Chelsea. So I imagine he probably will start. I think the priority is deal with your biggest problem. Chilwell is a problem, but Henry is a bigger one. So I would probably, with that, be looking to move Henry and Chilwell right now. And that should cover yourself off quite nicely. So, something like Botman and Cash, or, if you're going Porro or a Doggy, for example, probably wait a little bit longer. So maybe just Botman now and roll the other one. Might be a powerful move, Lee. Tiffy Ferreira says, do you think they will make changes with FPL Cup in Game Week 15 this season? Tiffy, I don't know why people come on these streams and ask me about the FPL Cup. It's a really pointless thing. Edward S says, is Duran worth considering as 8th attacker instead of Archer? Yeah, if St. Amps to Ollie Watkins. I know FPL Villain, who travels and watches Villa, has tweeted this morning and said that he wouldn't be hugely shocked if Watkins was benched on Sunday. Again, with it Carabao Cup next week and the fact he didn't start last night, I can't see that personally, but I certainly respect that he knows his team better than I do. So if we thought he was going to play, sure, but otherwise, no, I don't see why. Like, if Watkins got injured, I think the narrative around Duran would be quite quick, but otherwise, no. Glover says, got priced out of Chilwell and Pedro to Botman and Alvarez -4. Should I? 1. Just replace Botman with Burn. 2. Roll the free transfer. I start Pedro and Chilwell 3. Replace Alvarez with Edouard. Oh, sorry, I understand. So buy Edouard instead. Okay, so you need to obviously move Chilwell to Botman, or you can't get to Alvarez. Yeah, I get that. I wouldn't be massively keen on Dan Burn, to be honest. Just thinking longer term about Lewis Hall, and it's not an immediate threat, but it might be in future weeks. Don't think there's any threat to Botman longer term. And I think if you go and buy an enabling Newcastle player, you probably are thinking long term. I don't think you're thinking short term. I think you're thinking longer term. I can certainly understand the want to get Alvarez in. The alternative might be to consider doing something like, Bayer or a Kabore, and having that ready for what you want to use of it next week, and then come back to Botman with perhaps a little bit more money in the bank. That might be a solution. And if that was me, that's probably what I'd be thinking of doing. Yeah, I couldn't have gone. The one I really wanted to do was Martinelli to Diaby was my plan for Game Week 8. And I couldn't do that and go João Pedro to Alvarez. So I considered the alternatives like Chilwell to Botman. Didn't work financially. Same as Martinelli to Diaby didn't work financially if I wanted to get Alvarez. So it was a choice then for me. Was it Martinelli to a 6.5 or under? I obviously chose Doku. Or did I go from Chilwell to a 4.0? I'm going to guess you haven't got Martinelli, which I deemed was probably a bigger problem for me because I don't think he starts on Sunday. I know Arteta won't rule him out at this stage, but Arteta didn't speak up about Thomas Partey ahead of Manchester United in Game Week 4, and he's still injured now. So I could certainly accept there could be a little bit of kidology in there. Certainly Leandro Trossard's done well in the 2 games as well, so I don't see why Martinelli would start. If you haven't got Martinelli and you're happy with your midfield, you're looking more at the second option, so I'd consider that. And again, if you're thinking longer term, I'd consider a Burnley defender rather than a Luton. Awesome 6971 says, morning James, who would you play out, Saliba and Udogie? Saliba, mate. Tottenham haven't kept a clean sheet in the Premier League away to Arsenal since 1998. Awesome 6971 says, and what are your thoughts on Chilwell playing? My instincts at the moment would be that he doesn't, but as said several times, let's see what Pochettino says in his press conference today. Frederick Hertz says, considering a hit involving either Henry and Martinelli out for Trippier and Gordon / Botman and Trossard. I wouldn't be going Trossard, mate. Or Pedro and Martinelli out for Alvarez and Diaby. If I don't take a hit, I'll probably do the sideways Arsenal move. Alvarez, Diaby. That's the one I would have wanted to do. Get Diaby ready for 8, saving me a transfer further down the line. That would be the advice, Frederick. Yeah. 0.1 short I was, otherwise that's what I'd have been doing. Edwin S says, which one of Wilson or Højlund would you choose on wildcard if you had to pick one of those? I think Højlund, personally. Because I just look at it now and I think I know he's going to play and then fixtures are good. And let's say he does well on Saturday, I think there'll be a clamour for him. Whereas I don't buy into that. Oh, Wilson's playing Premier League, Isak's playing Champions League. Like, I just don't buy into that narrative as yet. To be honest, I think Isak will play on Sunday. Is my opinion. Thomas Powell says, "Hi James, what percentage of a manager's tenure do you think is down to their connection with the fans? Could you see a manager having no connection and staying for 3-4 years?" Okay, there's an extra bit. For example, our manager said the derby game against Cardiff didn't really mean anything and plays a style of football that we hate. Yet he says he won't leave. If he had spoken better about the game fans, do you think that manager has a better chance of staying longer? Sorry for the long question. No, thanks for clarifying. I think that's pretty pony, right? I spoke about this on our Patreon podcast on Wednesday about Ange's comments after we beat Sheffield United. When he was asked, he said, Tottenham fans are dreaming. You need to tell them to calm down. What are expectations? He said, look, if they want to dream, let them dream. And yeah, look, Ange's already built out that connection in, let's say, 2 months, basically. You could certainly argue for less from when the Premier League started. So I think the connection can be built up really quickly. With Pochettino at Tottenham, it was kind of built up it took about 6 months to really get behind what was trying to be achieved. Maybe I might be over-egging that, maybe 4 months, maybe. Postecoglou's done it already, so I don't think it needs 3-4 years to have that connection. Similarly, I think that connection can fall out, right? Ask Chelsea fans about Mourinho's first spell and Mourinho's second spell. And I know he won the title the second spell, but the way it ended, for example, I think they felt different about him. When he got sacked the first time, it would have been like, you can't do that. When he got sacked the second time, it would have probably like, you have to do that. So I think that can change in supporters' minds as well, mate. But no, you definitely can get a connection really quickly, I think. Klopp and Liverpool would be a good example. I think that connection was built really quickly. For example, Arteta and Arsenal connection was there because he played for them, but in terms of the belief in him as a manager, probably took a little bit longer. They're all different, mate. Ali Bismo says, "Hi James, on wildcard, thinking of going for Ferguson as third forwards. The expense of downgrading Rashford to Mitoma/Foden. Plan is to sell Ferguson game week 8 and upgrade Foden/Mitoma to Rashford then. Thoughts?" Nah. Just be going down that Rashford or Foden route now. So you're going to miss out on what? Foden against Nottingham Forest at home and Wolves away, and you're going to miss out on Rashford against Burnley away and Palace at home. Ferguson got Villa away next week. Can't be certainly starts either, to be honest. So no, I wouldn't be for that, mate. Steve said, "Good morning, James. Out hiking whilst listening to your wonderful voice to relax. Is it worth a -4 for Watkins to Alvarez for the upcoming weeks? Thanks." Oh, God. There's going to be a lot of this, isn't there? It's tough. I just think that if Watkins does well in the next couple, and let's be fair, he has returned in 4 of the 5 games so far, and I realise they're only assists, but he's, 22 points, I think, from the 5. Like, it's not terrible. I know you'd have wanted a little bit more, but it's not terrible. If he does well in the next couple, ahead of Villa's good run of fixtures, do you sit there and want to flip that in game week 8 when Alvarez goes to Arsenal? And therefore, what's he got to do in the next 2 for the -4 to be worthwhile? So just consider that. I get it. I can absolutely understand why everyone wants to get to Alvarez this week. I wanted to do that. I've taken a hit essentially to get Alvarez in my team, so I get it. But I could have gone Watkins to Alvarez for free and I didn't do it. So I think that probably gives a little bit of balance in terms of how I feel from that perspective. And I didn't need to sell Martinelli, right? I could have benched Martinelli, Chilwell this week. I'd be playing Maddison instead. Like, it's fine. It wasn't for me in a position of like, I've got to take the -4 because I need bench coverage as well. Like I said, my bench this week at the moment is Maddison, Chilwell, Udogie. As it stands, that might change by tomorrow. So I could have quite comfortably just done the 3 and Martinelli sits on the bench and play Maddison no problem, or play Chilwell. So I'd be reluctant to sell him. That's the honest answer. That's all I can say. But you might be sitting there thinking, I want to sell him. And if you do, crack on. James Stock says, "Hi James, hope you're well. I'm taking a -4 this week. Selling Foden, Salah, my goodness, and Watkins for Haaland and 2 mids for 13.5. Who would you pick for these slots?" I'm just trying to figure out here what what would have changed your mind over the 5 weeks of brilliant fixtures that Man City have had to make you go, right now I want to get him? All right, you've gambled against so far. There's a few who will sell in game week 8. There are. If you've gambled against, I'd arguably keep gambling against, to be honest. Yeah, clear best captaincy this week. I could get that. But you've already gone past, game week 1. It was obviously hugely popular at Burnley. Game week 3 at Sheffield United. Game week 4 at home to Fulham. You've already gone through 3 massive weeks where he's returned big. And, he's been really heavily captained. Obviously, he has in the other 2 as well. But in 2 and 5, there was challenges with Salah and Son, respectively, to take him on. What's making you think, I want to go there now? Selling Foden, Salah, Watkins. I don't like that, James. I don't like it. I can't sit as I don't get Haaland. I can't do that. But I'm just trying to figure out what would have changed in your mind. At me on Twitter, James. I'm interested to know what's made you change your mind to think now you've got to game week 6 and Man City coming to a really tough run of fixtures from game week 8. What's made you now think, shit, I've got to get him? I'm really interested to know, mate. Hollis Stower says, morning, right now, who do you think going to finish top 6 and in what order? I think City, Arsenal, Liverpool clear top 3, in my opinion. I think I'd still probably just about, and I say still just because it's probably actually changed, I'd probably say Newcastle 4th. The 3 bad results they had, they only picked up 1 point in the 3 equivalents. They're about to go on a really good run of fixtures, which I think is convenient for them with obviously the difficult Champions League fixtures, etc. They've got to be consistent over this period to put themselves back in the running, but I think they will be. I look at Newcastle's next 5, and to be honest, I can see them getting about 13 points, and that'll put them right back in contention. So I still think Newcastle. I think the depth of things they've got, like Isak versus Wilson, I think there's other teams who actually would be more impacted by injuries than maybe they would be in those sort of positions. You've got Barnes, he's competitive, Tonali's added in. Centre-back's the problem one, where they need to keep Botman and Schär fit, and I think the goalkeeper, Nick Pope, as well. If those 3 stay fit, I'd still say Newcastle, I think with many of the teams, including Brighton, I was very clear on this at the back end of last season, that if Brighton didn't qualify for Europe, I would have predicted them to finish top 4. Definitely. And I would have arguably said that they may be in contention for the title. So I would say Brighton 5th, because I think with them, they can just overrun any good team, never mind a shit team. And we know that low blocks are possibly becoming a problem for them, but the best sides aren't going to get a level out, I think. So I'd probably say Brighton 5th. To be honest, my team 6th at the moment, I think. Then Manchester United. Then Chelsea, I think. And then Villa. Villa just partly as well because I think the Mings loss is bad, really bad. And I do expect, despite the result last night, I think there's every chance they'll go all the way in the Conference League and win that competition. So that's why. I think Manchester United have work to do. Chelsea, I said last week that I struggle to think that they'll finish top 4 at the moment. We should also remember that 5th might be enough for Champions League qualification this year. Brighton, Newcastle are particularly difficult to predict because their involvement in European football is new. It's new for the managers and the players. It's new. Might not be new for Newcastle as a club, I recognise that, but it's also been a long time. It's new for both of them, which makes them unpredictable. But I think the way Newcastle's fixtures have landed, they have to do well over this period coming up, but I'd still probably say them for 4th, I think. And there's a lot of you, I think, will think I'm being very reserved in saying 6th about Tottenham, and I might be doing so, because I think a lot of people now think Tottenham will finish top 4. But it's really early days. See how you feel about Tottenham after Sunday. Jay says, sell Chilwell or Saliba for Trippier. I'll be doing it for a bit. Surely it's worth it over the long term. Apologies if it's been harsh. Cheers, James. It's not a problem, mate. I think, yeah, sure. Look, I can't say that buying Kieran Trippier is a bad idea. What I can say for me is if I bought Kieran Trippier, I can't, in my opinion, get a good team that would have Salah and Haaland together in game week 9. So it's not just about now. Use a brilliant tool like FPL Team to look ahead at your forward planning. That's all. Is Kieran Trippier probably the best defender to own in FPL over the forthcoming weeks? Yes, probably. But it doesn't necessarily mean you should go there. Vish says, hi James, is Doku or Szoboszlai or Kulusevski draft team? I think Szoboszlai, specifically for drafts, would probably be a pretty decent pickup actually. Doku really short term. Kulusevski I'd be a bit concerned about, with obviously Johnson in the wings now potentially as well. Miles Thompson says, hi James, class content this week. Thank you. A, would you bench Watkins or Pedro? It'd probably be Ferguson Welbeck up front, I think. B says, sell Pedro for Alvarez and bench Watkins. Yeah, that one. Or C, choose option A and bring in Morris for Pedro next week. Yeah, just get Alvarez in, mate, for Pedro. Yeah, you can do that for free as well. Just do it. JHSUFC says, hi James, views on -4 on Jackson, Vardy, Martinelli to bring in Alvarez, Botman and 1 of Bruno Fernandes, Luis Diaz or Jota. What a great differential Bruno Fernandes could be for you over this period. Yeah, I'm okay with it, mate. Stephen Duffy says, hi mate, would you play Jackson or Diaby? I'd play Jackson. The underlying numbers are good. Home fixture. Those of you tuning into the deadline stream tomorrow will see that, subject to the team news, you're probably going to see me predict Chelsea to win. So Jackson for me. John Sully says, hi James, do you think the chance of Son play up top decreases given the Perisic injury? Yeah, it doesn't help. To be honest, I actually think Perisic might have started on Sunday against Arsenal. I had a sneaky for that, just in terms of just a little bit more cautiousness in terms of thinking about Bukayo Saka. It could easily be Son goes back to left and Richarlison in the team for Solomon. Like, easily could be that. My instinct is that I think it will be the same team for Tottenham, is my instinct at the moment. But again, let's see what Ange says a little later today. There might be something in that. Again, he's quite open and straightforward. Not that he's going to tell you the team, but it might be a vibe you can pick up perhaps from his press conference. So my instinct would be probably same team. But again, you've got Johnson coming into the situation. He could also play through the middle. Certainly, Perisic's injury doesn't help the idea of Son staying up front. Think of it this way as well. We don't know if Ange wants to use Johnson on the left. So if he doesn't want to use Johnson on the left, and he may decide that he's okay to do that, he's not going to move Kulusevski to the left. So it is Solomon or Son on the left. So if that's the circumstance, if he wants to take Solomon out of the team, Son's playing on the left. Simple as that, really. Again, don't know the answer. This is something I discussed a lot last week about considering outcomes. How do you feel if you get to this point and you think, Son might be going back to the left and stuff? I think the advice generally would be, like, if you've gone Sonny, keep him in, because you knew that this might be the situation. I think keep him in, see how you run over the next couple, because there'll be nothing worse than if you take him out. It flips the other way now. You take him out, and let's say he does stay through the middle and he does well in the next two, and then it's Luton away. Because if that happens, think about the outcome. If that happens, if Heung-min Son stays through the middle, and let's say he scores against Arsenal and Liverpool, and Tottenham do well in those two games, you will probably get to game week 8 and probably want to captain Son away to Luton when Haaland goes to Arsenal. So again, whereas last week it was think about what's the worst case scenario, now instead of selling, we're almost saying, right, okay, now flip it. What's the best case scenario here? If I had Sonny right now, I'd be looking to hold, would be my take. Ali says, also James, second question, would you go with Cash or Udogie on wildcard? Already on double Newcastle defence is Stupinan and Caboro. I'd go with the Tottenham boy. I know it doesn't help necessarily quite so much on the immediate, although it's certainly a challenging game for Cash. It's another one where I think we look at Tottenham and we look at that picture in terms of the left back position, we know Udoggie's first choice, right? There's literally zero doubt about it. And Tottenham out the Carabao, no European involvement. We don't have to have concerns really about Ben Davies playing particularly. So Udogie is going to play 9 out of 10, right? Quite clearly left back, very good player. We don't quite yet know what the Alex Moreno impact is on Matty Cash. And that would be the reasoning to go against. What I would say is, however I set that up, if I didn't go with cash or an alternative Villa defender, I would absolutely want to be leaving the money available to make sure I could get to cash or Moreno in a couple of weeks. Probably from maybe even as early as game week 8. But certainly by latest game week 10. So that's probably the way I would do it. EMPTSD says, have already ditched Jackson for Alvarez. Now pondering Martinelli to Eze for -4. Worth it. I can always get Martinelli back when I wildcard in game week 9. Well, I think, to be honest, Ian, it's probably who's going to play instead, right? So if you leave Martinelli in the team, which is probably what you'll end up doing, if Martinelli doesn't play at all, who's coming in your team? And that's therefore then maybe who your Eze effective -4 is over, really, in terms of the immediate for the game week. If you want Eze longer term, like it's reasonable, I'm not massively keen at the moment, is the honest answer. Jojo says, hi James mate, no question, just hello, and hope you and the family are well. Good luck for the game week. Thank you Jojo, you too. Ramiz says, morning James, what do you think of wildcarding over international breaks to avoid boredom? You can flip that. It's another narrative. So you could go see international break, get headspace, get a break. A break is good. Break is good. And to be honest, what I would say is on wildcarding, even if you wildcard over an international break, you should still be breaking your mind. All you need to do is keep on the price changes. But probably between sort of the Tuesday after a game week up until sort of the Wednesday the following week, you should be completely switching off in the middle of an international break and just keeping an eye on the price rises. And if you think it's someone remotely that you might want, then obviously just put them in and come back to it. And so have a thought process at the start and a thought process at the end, and give yourself a space. Give yourself some headspace, right? It's no good to think about FPL for 42 weeks of the season, day in, day out. Have a break. N Brown says -4, says the guy who releases 2 podcasts every weekday for the 42 and more weeks of season. Sorry about that. M Brown says -4 for Botman and Salah. Chilwell and Sonny out. Nah, again, do we need to force Salah in? Do we need to force it quickly? Who would you rather have in game week 8 right now? Would you rather have Salah at Brighton, or would you rather have Sonny at Luton? Now, I know which one you'd rather have this week to balance that. But can we not just go Chilwell to Botman and just give a bit more headspace, I think? If you wanted to captain mode this week, which I'm going to presume you probably don't, sure. Otherwise, I'd just go to 1 and I'd leave Sonny there for the minute. You'd make a case Sonny might be a better option than Salah next week. You could do. Again, especially if Sonny was to play for the middle. Does well against Liverpool. FF Thinker Sean Fort says, Sky question, given Lyle Foster is suspended for the next 2 Prem games pre-single game day versus Luton, would be a transfer out after anyway. Would you use an additional transfer to swap him to Morris? No, I don't think I would. I get it. There's 2 extra fixtures. I get it. But you're also still making another transfer specifically for Luton versus Burnley. So I'd leave him, buddy. I'd just leave Foster in. What you think as well is, once he comes back for Luton, as long as he's in the team, and we couldn't guarantee it, of course, but he probably will be, then you've got him as captain there, and even if another team's got 2 games beforehand, then you've effectively got Foster twice versus Luton. There aren't huge gains on that. Also ask yourself, Sean, if you had Morris and Foster in game week 7 when they play each other, which one would you captain? If you had both that night, which one would you captain? And if that answer is still Foster, then you definitely should keep, mate. Mr. Tool says, what are the best tactics to protect rank in Sky? I'm off to a surprisingly good start. We're getting towards the point where we want to take more notice of the ownership. I don't think we're quite there yet, where there'll be a lot of teams still in the top 1,000 who've got some wacky choices and stuff when they've burnt 25 transfers already or stuff like that. But the simple one in terms of protecting rank is make sure, first and foremost, best captain. So you would want, going into this weekend, you've got to have Haaland Saturday, and you want to make sure if you don't have, you've got Mo Salah Sunday. That's it. Repeat. That's your best, first and simplistic way of protecting is get yourself the best captaincy. Sean also says, having written it feels like wasting too many transfers on shit assets. There you go, Sean. We're of the same thinking. Milan Razavi, I hope you're well, pal, says, hey James, hating the family are well. What would you rather do, Watkins to Alvarez for free, or Pedro to Alvarez and Chilwell to Botman? Saves the headache with Pedro long term, so leaning towards the B. Is that a -4? A -4? Look at all these silly emojis coming up. That's really cute. I've never seen that come up before. But I don't pay a lot of notice to it. But yay, smash some emojis. Smash a like, guys. Smash a like. So Watkins to Alvarez free, or Pedro to Alvarez, Chilwell to Botman? Yeah, I think B, mate, yeah. Ben Edinson says, morning, mate. Well, Johnny FPL says, Ward-Prowse always done well even at Southampton. Now he's in a better team. He's thriving. Yes, but it's also a team that will have less of the ball than good Southampton teams have had. Edward S says, which keeper would you choose along with Areola if you were wildcarding this week? It's a good question. I personally, I think I would honestly just go Turner and just go to 2 cheapies, I think. And yeah, this week's shit. I'd just play Areola at Liverpool and get on with it, I think. And then be happy to play Areola in what's coming up. If you're looking something a bit shorter term, like I said, if you want to cover off, say, the next 4 weeks, you could make a case for Kaminsky, right? Wolves at home, double. Tottenham at home's not great. Then there's Nottingham Forest away. Like, it's not terrible as a set of 4. Pickford's got a good 3. If anyone wants to do that again, do they? I'd probably just go to 2 cheapies, I think. Zikan says, good morning, James. Sorry if I missed it. What do you think of Sun's minutes and well play? Worth saying. Okay, Todd. Thank you for the question, Zikan, but yeah, I've kind of just covered, so I'm going to skip, but thank you, mate. Minas Savlaki says, like the stream people, so much effort goes into these videos. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it. Smash a like, be appreciated. Jack Walker says, do you have an Arsenal away ticket? No. No, I could have gone. I would have got a ticket, no problem. My wife's away this weekend, and that's hence the very early stream this morning. The Differential Show podcast on Patreon's already been released, because as soon as, basically in 10 minutes, I'm wrapping up the stream. I'm going to come pick my son up from school, because he's still on half days at the moment. So he's picking up at 1 o'clock. And then I'm looking after him on my own all weekend. So we'll probably go around my mum and dad's to watch the game on Sunday. But I didn't particularly want to do 5 hours away from him when his mum's not around either, to be honest. So I decided not to go. I don't like going there anyway, to be totally honest. I wasn't that fussed. I really wasn't that fussed. Jeremy Darmy Hughes says, morning, mate. Who will you pick from Cher and Eze or Burn and Diaby? Villa option, mate. First option leaves 0 in the bank. Second leaves 0.2, even better. Palace fixtures are great for 6 and 8 and decent versus United and Spurs in 7 and 10. Good luck this game. Good luck to you too, mate. Harry Dawson says, hi James, play Sterling or Vissa. Cheers. That's an interesting one. If we weren't going to play Vissa at home to Everton, I'd be wondering how quickly I needed to get rid of this guy, if that's part of the debate, I think, Harry. So, yeah, I'm at home to Everton. I'm trying to think. If you'd have said Archer and say they had Everton at home this week, what I would say, I'd probably say Archer. So I think the correct answer is Vissa, mate. Ben Edinson says, Sky question, was looking at 3 moves on October the 29th. Pope, Silva, Maddison to Addison, Villa asset. I already have Watkins, Mitoma, but not sure as this will leave me with no captain 6th of November. Right, apologies, Ben. I need to get my Sky Planner up to remind myself exactly what the 6th of November looks like. 6th of November. Tottenham against Chelsea. You can just buy a Tottenham that night, right? You're going to want to invest in Tottenham for the Fulham and Crystal Palace games 23rd, 27, right? And you do have moving off Maddison as part of that plan. Just go back, mate. Or you could skip it. Tottenham, Chelsea, probably won't be many passing numbers in the game. You could skip it if it's too tough of a call. But I'd probably still want something from us, yeah. I think if Tottenham play a single game day home fixture, I'd want one. Janega77 says, we'll be at the game next week, Spurs versus Liverpool prediction. If we were playing them this weekend, I'd probably predict us to win. I think. Yeah, I think that they've got vulnerabilities with the way they're starting games at the moment, and we seem to get better as well in games. So yeah, if we were playing them at home this weekend, I'd probably predict us to win. I might sit here this time next week and say to you, I think Liverpool will win. Tikasala says, hi, I have 2 free transfers which I'm tempted to use on Pedro and Chilwell to Alvarez and Gusto. Going Chilwell to Gusto is necessary to fund Alvarez. Worth doing Udogie to Botman from -4 here. Don't like -4s straights for defenders. Let's be honest about this, right? What does Udogie score at Arsenal realistically? 1? Realistically, 1. What does Botman score at Sheffield United realistically? 6? You're 1 point up. Well done. Like, I just don't like that. If you were saying, right, Udogie to Trippier, and we'd look at, right, Trip, yeah, all that chance creation potential from him, his potential 12 point, yeah, different conversation. But just generally speaking, anyway, I don't like hits on defenders. I would think with Destiny, anyway, you probably want to keep him long term. Super Saiyan 45 says, how's things, boss? I'm very tempted to get Eze in for Bruno this week. Not wildcard in this period, so it would enable Salah in a couple of weeks' thoughts. I mean, you can make that sort of move in a couple of weeks to afford. So I would not want to be getting rid of any Manchester United defensive players before that fixture tomorrow night. That would be my take. Sean24 says, what option scores more over the next 2 weeks? Alvarez, -4. Watkins and Morris, no hit. Hang on, A, Alvarez, B, Watkins. I don't know if you forgot the C, Morris. I'm not sure if you've forgotten the C there, but I'm going to say Alvarez, Sean, over the next 2, mate. My homie says, hi, James. Do you like the term content creator and the expectation it sometimes puts on you? Any chance of pod with you and Ben Krellin? And lastly, do you listen to any other pods or even... I mean, Ben's doing great stuff at the moment on the Inspected Goals pods. I'm not sure how much time he'd have on his hands. And as much as the idea of me and Ben doing a pod together would appeal... I do wonder if we might both just get a bit too geeky about things in terms of planning and strategy and stuff. And Ben covers things in his way, and I cover things in mine. But yeah, like I've had the pleasure of meeting Ben a couple of times. He's a top gent, really lovely bloke. What was the other part of the question? Oh, in terms of do I like the term content creator? I tell you what, I prefer it to expert because I ain't nobody's expert. I create content, don't I? So I don't really see a reason to dislike that, and also don't think it puts expectation on you. But then I don't sell it as I'm an expert and listen to me and do what I do and I'll make you amazing at FPL. I just enjoy the game and talk about football, right? So I don't sell myself as an expert, and maybe those that feel the need to get additional subs and that. Like I know I've said this 100 times over. Like we could push ourselves as experts, and the likes and subs would hit loads more and stuff. And we did kind of clickbait content. I don't want to go down that route. I'd rather not. I think we offer a different space within the FPL community. Some people like us, some people don't. That's fine. Everyone's got their choice and stuff. So I don't mind the term content creator. I create content, so it's absolutely fine. It doesn't. The only expectation it puts on me is the ability to produce good content. And again, some people like it, some people won't. So, but I think it's almost like, does it put pressure on me to get a good FPL rank or not? I think most people, if you're watching live now, you'd probably be watching whether I was ranked 10k in the world or ranked 1 million in the world, right? It's just probably if I was ranked 10k, there'd probably be a few more people watching, right? Because they're like, James at Planet FPL is top 10k or something, right? It doesn't matter. I don't really necessarily even want these people to be watching, to be totally honest. So no, I don't feel the pressure of it, mate. Nicky Kassam says, how do you rate Harvey Barnes' chance to stake in a claim for the left wing position in the upcoming couple of months? Yeah, sure, good. And I think we're probably going to see a bit of rotation. I mean, I don't suppose anybody was thinking Jacob Murphy would start in Milan the other night, right? So I think that was probably reward for being a really good member of the squad last year. And I think Eddie Howe values that. The fact that other than, I think, Tonali, the whole team was part of the squad that got them to the Champions League started. And that was probably in force. So it might even been that Joel Linton might have played over Tonali and Longstaff might have played as a reward. And I really rate that from a manager actually as well. So you've got Barnes, Almiron, Gordon's playing well, Murphy in competition. We know that at certain times chasing in the game, You might play Wilson up front, stick Isak out wide. Joe Linton can go into a wide position. Joe Willock's obviously been injured all of this season so far. Can also be pushed into a front three on the left. But to answer your question, yeah, he can stake a claim, mate. Absolutely. I don't suppose Newcastle put 40 million on the table to Leicester for him not to stake a claim. Ollie Harris says, hi James, hope you and the family are well. Who are your thoughts? 4.0 defenders on wildcard. I'd go Bayer, I think. I'd go Bayer. I'm pretty sure when he came off at Forest on Monday night, I think that was probably just cramp related, to be honest. Yeah, and that's because I think it'd just be more useful for me in the game weeks beyond sort of game week 10. Game week 10 up to Christmas, Burnley's fixtures are okay, but that's really nice cover. And I think you could look at the Luton ones now, and that's better for now. It's better for 7, but it's not better after that. And a 4.0 defender on wildcard, I think you've got to consider, if you're going the likes of, Stupiñans, if you say you're picking ones, say your Stupiñans, Cash, Porro, like there's a risk element in all of these players at some point a little bit, right? Rather than say if you just went, Botman, Saliba. So it probably depends on the rest of your picks. But like I said, I look at things like Udogie going to Man City and Bayer having Sheffield United at home and think that real in the long term, that could be quite useful for me actually. Chris Hermitage says, apologies if already covered, but would you start Watkins or Pedro this week? It's the same dilemma I have every week. Watkins, mate. Copyright football video says Son and Maddison versus Arsenal, keep or hold. Yeah, it's a cape. It's a cape. You knew you were going to get it, right? And if you don't know where you want to go, then there's not even a debate, is there? I don't think. Right, I'm going to cover 3 more that I can see on the screen. Jacko says, hi James, who do you think scores more this game week, Neto or Saka? Very tempted to punt Neto's rotation, play him for Luton, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, bench him for Newcastle, Saka, fixtures up and down. I would not bench Bukayo Saka if he was playing Manchester City, mate. Non-optional for me. Just literally not. You'll see Bukayo Saka as one of the top picks on captaincy for me this week on tomorrow's deadline stream. Yash says, James, any doubts on Estupiñán being benched because he played 90 yesterday? It's Brighton, of course there's the doubt. You're going to do this to yourself every single week. Like it is what it is, isn't it? So, yeah. I think he probably plays. And he plays the majority of games. He had a break last weekend, right? It's Carabao Cup this week, at the next midweek. He probably doesn't play. So, 95% he starts. But I don't think any Brighton players ever 100%. And we'll finish with Greg Frost. Says, what do you think about going to an Uber defence? Turner, Areola, that's fine. Van Heck, Gusto, Lamptey, Kabore, and Bayer. No, mate, it's too many steps too far there, mate. I get it. Even here, Van Heck's not... We probably is first choice for Brighton at the moment, but he's certainly going to be rotated. Gusto will lose his place if Reece James ever gets fit. Tariq Lamptey's not first choice at Brighton. We don't know that Issa Kabore is first choice at Luton. And although I'm pretty confident Jordan Bayer is first choice at Burnley, there are a few unknowns in the sense like Dara O'Shea was unavailable at Nottingham Forest and I don't know the reason why yet. So you could quite quickly land in a position where you got to one particular game week and none of them played, mate. So that's got to be a no-no. And on that note, FPL Rubber Ducky says quack quack. And we'll end the stream there. Thank you very much, guys. Sorry to those whose questions I haven't got to. As per every other week, guys, if you want to tag me on Twitter at PlanetFPLPod with your question, I will answer it. If you slide in my DMs and ask the question, I will probably just ignore it. Because it just gives people the license to just DM me every week, and I can't really be asked for that. Plus, I can quote tweet it, and then everybody else can see my answer as well. Before I go, obviously, if you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/PlanetFPL. That's what allows me to be a content creator, is the support from our patrons. Doesn't make you a better FPL manager, but you do get additional content as always, and obviously there is the chance just to support us if you like the free shit. Next week's schedule is going to look a little bit different, just to brief you on that. The Game Week Review podcast will be on Tuesday. There is no way I can fit it into my schedule as the wife's not back till Monday evening to do that podcast on Monday. Absolutely none. So Clash the Correspondence on Monday. Bournemouth versus Arsenal with Neil Grover and Adam Pritchard. And yes, I will be recording that on Monday morning immediately after the North London derby. I have lost my mind, but the shit I do for you guys. Game Week Review podcast Tuesday. Wednesday will be Sky Fantasy Football podcast. Thursday, another clash to correspondence for you, of course, ahead of the double game week in 7, Luton versus Burnley with Dan Ashby and Jack Toner. And on Friday, Lauren Harris will be joining me for a Women's Super League preview. That starts next weekend as well. The podcast on Patreon next week will be Q&A on Monday, because there's no Ask James to everyone else next week. I'm probably going to do that for the patrons on Tuesday. Wednesday will be Tottenham. Thursday will be Money in Football. Friday will be the Differential Show Game Week 7 preview. This week's version of that is already available to our intermediate tier and above patrons. The deadline stream tomorrow goes ahead. That will start for you at 12:30 p.m. UK time on this Planet FPL YouTube channel. If you're in now, smash a like. Doesn't cost anything. Hit the sub button. Also doesn't cost anything. Have a great weekend, everyone. Play it your way. And for the benefit of those on the audio cue music, please, man child.